Karma could be thought of as anything that goes against the natural currents of our soul. Naturally, at the origin of our soul's existence, we have no karma. And between lives, in time that we may spend in spirit as pure soul, without a human physical body or lifetime, during those times, we also are free of these karmic cycles, patterns, situations that seem to burden us at times through life. So, what is karma? And more importantly, for those of you who identify as twin flames, who are on a conscious twin flame journey in this lifetime, how do we as twin flames go about clearing these heavy karmic energies that seem to, from our physical perspective at times, either weigh down or even interfere with our connection with our twin? We're going to dive into all of that in this podcast video. But first, I just want to give a big thank you to all of you beautiful souls tuning in to this channel. We are a truly powerful, beautiful collective here on the Magnetize Yourself channel, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. For those of you who are new to my channel, please click the subscribe button to join this beautiful community we're creating here on YouTube. Also, if you are someone who identifies as a twin flame, then please note that I channel twin flame readings as live premieres every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here on this channel at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to tune back in on those times and days if you feel guided to do so. So, what is karma? Well, as we said at the beginning of this video, karma is unnatural to the soul, meaning that it is something that is, in a sense, blocking our soul's true nature, what we sometimes call our core soul frequency. Now, for twin flames, these karmic blocks, as we could think of them, come up in a very profound and dramatic way through these unfolding situations, interactions, communications with our twin flame in the physical. The reason that our twin flame so dramatically brings up these karmic cycles and patterns to the surface, and the reason we of course do the same for them, because this is a connection based on mirroring. The reason this occurs is actually for the beautiful healing purpose of spotlighting these karmic patterns within us, therefore allowing them to be seen, acknowledged, and released much more rapidly than they possibly could be otherwise. In fact, taking on quite a bit of karma as a soul in this lifetime and being a conscious twin flame, being on the twin flame path, actually go hand in hand very strongly. Very often, souls who choose to take on a lot of karma also choose to be on a twin flame path in this lifetime, to have an awareness consciously of their twin flame and share some form of conscious interaction with them in this lifetime. And of course, vice versa. Those who are twin flames also tend to take on a lot of karma in kind of the reverse of that equation. And what is the reason for this? Why are so many twin flames seemingly so burdened with these karmic patterns, cycles, and situations? Well, the thing about karma is it's so commonly misunderstood, because very often when we hear the word karma, it evokes a feeling of helplessness. It evokes images of somehow being trapped in these uncontrollable patterns or cycles that come from some unknown place, whether it's some other lifetime, some other family member, something generationally, something collectively. The common connotation of karma is that it's something we have no control over, that we didn't choose, and that leaves us feeling very helpless. But the truth is actually very much the opposite on a soul level. We live in a universe based on free will. The thing is that sometimes some of the choices we made as souls, we selectively forget when we're born in this human physical body for the purpose of remembering. Because by choosing to forget some of our soul's choices and intentions for this lifetime, and through that process of remembrance of those choices, there is an immense amount of soul growth and expansion that takes place simply through that remembering. And in this case, in the case of karma, we choose as souls to take on certain karmic patterns, cycles, or energetic blockages, either individually for our family's line or for the collective. The purpose being not to burden ourselves with these karmic cycles, but to participate in raising the vibration of the collective consciousness, breaking the binds that have been imprisoning the collective in unconscious cycles of pain and hurt for thousands and thousands of years. We come here to be healers in this way. In fact, when we talk about being a light worker, I know many of you identify as light workers. We're really saying that we are those who came to this planet to transmute darkness into light. However, the initiation of a light worker involves taking on darkness individually within our early life, within our family dynamic, over the course of our lifetime, for the purpose of learning first to transmute our own darkness, and in doing so, learning how to transmute for the collective as well. So how does all of this tie in with twin flame connection? Well, in other forms of soul connection, like romantic soulmates or karmic relationships, which, as the name suggests, are those relationships that manifest from these karmic wounds and cycles, but we'll get into that later on. Let's talk about soulmate relationships, or simply different forms. I want to say shallower forms of connection, but that word shallow does hold a lot of negative meanings, and I don't intend it in that way. When I'm speaking of these more shallow connections compared to twin flame connection, I'm not saying they are lesser or more than, but simply that they are different in the sense that the twin flame connection is our most ancient, deeply held connection, because we and our twin flame are the same soul. We were created, we originated at the same moment in the universe, if you could think of it in that kind of way. Our soulmate connections are those who share a similar core soul frequency. So at the origination of our soul, we tend to come through in groups or originate in groups. So this means that we originate, or we are created at once as a kind of soul group or family, and then we tend to incarnate together, or we choose very often to incarnate together lifetime after lifetime. And again, this soul group, what we sometimes call our soul tribe or our soul family, involves soulmates that are platonic or romantic, but within this, there is one soul, our mirror soul, our twin soul, that originated at the exact same moment as our own. And this is our twin flame. So when twin flames incarnate together in the same physical lifetime, they don't just share a similar core soul frequency, They share an identical one, and this means that they quite literally support one another in the most radical way, in the truest definition of the word support, because they aren't just supporting one another through words or actions, but energetically, when one shifts or heals, it supports the other because the other mirrors those shifts and changes in the same way. However, this also means that when it comes to karma, twin flames also share the same karmic wounds and patterns. Energetically speaking, sometimes we simply refer to these as blocks because it's easier for our human minds to visualize a block. So if you think of these blocks or these karmic patterns, cloaking or hiding, concealing, interfering with our own connection to our most authentic self, clouding, in a sense, our core soul frequency that is trying to make its way out, that is trying to radiate outwards. Naturally, this causes a repulsion and interference effect in the external with our twin soul because, again, our twin soul is our own soul. So whenever we are disconnecting through these karmic blocks or situations, when these situations are causing disconnection from our true authentic self, naturally that is reflecting in disconnect, perceived disconnect, of course, because there is no true disconnect between twins, but perceived disconnect in the physical, whether it's an emotional disconnect, a literal distance disconnect, a relational disconnect. So another way to think of twin flame karma is to conceptualize it as anything that is causing a perceived interference in the physical, in the 3D, between ourselves and our twin flame. But remember, this also means that on the internal plane, that external karmic situation is reflected internally as some kind of energetic block within ourselves that is preventing us from reconnecting with our own self, with our true, authentic self. So, how can these karmic situations, or I should say these karmic energetic patterns and blocks, show up in connection with our twin flame? Well, very often we shorthand call karmic relationships that appear to interfere, quote unquote, with our twin flame connection in the physical. We often refer to these shorthand simply as karmics. However, again, this is a bit misleading because sometimes then, from our human ego-based perspective, we begin to fixate on the manifested karmic relationship as the quote-unquote problem, or as the block, or as the interference, forgetting that in true twin flame connection, anything manifested in the physical is reflected on the internal plane. So any manifestation of something that appears to be, to our human perspective, a block or an interference to full reunion with our twin in this life, whatever that means for us, is actually some kind of energetic block or pattern within our own self. So karmics, quote unquote, don't necessarily have to be people or relationships either. A karmic within twin flame connection could be a kind of addiction, whether this is an addiction to something physical, literal, as we think of in the traditional sense, or even an addiction to an emotional cycle. Certain emotional feelings and reactions within us, even negative feelings, anxiety, fear, jealousy, cause us to get a hit, a kind of rush that can actually be similar to a literal addiction. So we can develop these emotional addictions as well, patterns, habits of behaving, of being. These can also be karmic situations. Anything that we are perceiving to be causing some kind of disconnect in the physical between us and our twin, whether it's their behavior, whether it's our own behavior, an addiction, a person that seems in the way. Remember, all of these collectively could be referred to as karmics, as a karmic situation that, and again, this is the key here, that is reflecting, that is manifesting, because there is something mirrored between ourselves and our twin on the energetic plane that is coming up as some kind of energetic block, meaning it is preventing us, our human 3D conscious self, from fully reconnecting with our true, authentic inner self. So, of course, the natural question here is, how do we go about fully and completely clearing out karmic patterns and energies from our twin flame connection so we can experience manifested reunion with our twin, whatever that means for us, whether that's a deepening and opening of our communication, whether it is physically being together in the same location or in some form of relationship. These steps are seemingly simple but incredibly powerful and effective for reaching into any pockets of blocks or negative energetic ways of being, habits, proclivities that have come up between you and your twin flame, in order to clear them out completely over the course of time. So the first step to clearing karma between twin flames is to always first remove the focus from the external and bring it back to the self. So step one, we could just say, bring it back to the self. That's easy to remember. What I mean by this is, this may not be necessary if it's something in your own life or within your own self coming up for you. So let's say you are in or find yourself drawn to some kind of karmic relationship, or you are aware that you have some kind of negative emotional habits or ways of being or addictions. Then in that case, step one isn't necessary because it's already brought back to the self. But if you are perceiving your twin flame as separate from yourself in this situation, you are looking at something your twin flame is doing, a person they're connecting with, and saying, from this kind of ego-based perspective, they are involved with a karmic, again, whether it's a person or a pattern, that is blocking our connection. In this case, this step is so necessary because we have to remember that in true twin flame connection, we are mere souls, meaning that everything going on within our twin's sphere of being is somehow connected to our own inner world as well. So the confusing thing that comes up with this is that very often the divine feminine will actually manifest karmic patterns in situations more emotionally and mentally. This is because the divine feminine very often chooses what we think of as a more spiritual path, chooses to come into experience more of the finer, higher vibrations of existence, to be more in her mental realm, in her spiritual kind of essence, to be more guided earlier on in life to explore more esoteric concepts and spiritual ideas. Again, I'm generalizing here because there are no concretes in twin flame connection. But this is what the divine feminine very often chooses, whereas the masculine very often chooses a more dense, physically oriented path, which means he often manifests karmic cycles and patterns in a more visible, physical kind of way. So what happens is, very often there can be a situation where the divine masculine is seemingly stuck in some kind of highly visible karmic relationship or highly visible addictive pattern, whereas the divine feminine is reflecting the energetic block, but on the mental and emotional plane. So she may be struggling with a reflected pattern that is showing up more mentally and emotionally. But when we can't see something visibly, physically, it's much easier to deny this mirroring effect between twin flames and to instead pass blame on our twin flame counterpart and feel very blameful, frustrated, or even angry towards them, thinking that this karmic situation has to be entirely, as our ego might say, their fault or on them. In true twin flame connection, as opposed to other forms of relationship, of course, I should note this is not the way all relationships operate. It's twin flame connection that operates based on mirroring. So if someone is reflecting negative behavior patterns and cycles and not changing or shifting as we change or shift over the course of time, because it does tend to take the masculine longer, then it's very likely this person is a karmic relationship. But I can create separate videos on that, and I have in the past. I'm not saying that all relationships operate on mirroring. It is only twin flames that perfectly mirror one another in this way. That is why clearing karma from this relationship, these steps will only work specifically for twin flame connections. So do keep that in mind also. But with that being said, again, we need to bring it back to the self. So for example, if our twin flame is connecting with someone else romantically in a karmic relationship or some kind of third-party relationship, we might ask ourselves, how am I somehow not fully committing? Because we might look at our twin and say, they aren't committing to this path, committing to the connection. We might look at ourselves using the mirror technique, which I'll get into later. That's a different step, but we might look at ourselves and think, how am I not supporting myself or committing to myself or my own path? Now, this gets very complex because in the case of our twin being stuck in some kind of visible karmic pattern or situation, very often it can be necessary for us on the other side of this to set strong boundaries. We may even feel guided to separate physically from them, to set boundaries around physical interaction and communication. And in fact, very often the thing we are learning through experiencing this karmic situation with our twin, the very thing we are learning is how to no longer give our power over to the concept of the twin flame connection, to abandon ourselves for the sake of this connection, or to betray ourselves because we think we are supporting our twin flame through self-betrayal, which is never the case. So very often what these situations come up to show us is actually how to fully support ourselves, show up for ourselves, even if this means setting stronger boundaries with our twin in some cases. In some cases, some may feel guided to create space in the physical within their connection in order to fully support, show up for, and express love to their own self. Because remember, whenever we support, love, or show up for ourselves, simultaneously we are showing up, supporting, and loving our twin flame, because we're doing that at the core energetically, regardless of how it looks in the physical. That just felt important to mention here as well. So once we have released feelings of blame and been able to turn the pattern back to ourselves, we can now take it to the core. Now, I know that I spoke on this earlier. This is step 2, take it to the core. This step is seemingly simple, but what it requires of us is to release all voices from other people, all opinions of other people, programming of society, because society teaches us a way of being and specifically a way of loving that is highly transactional and runs very opposite to true unconditional love, which is twin flame love. So it's very important for us to, for this process, go within, release all of those external blocks and barriers and negative programs that keep us stuck in these limiting paradigms of love and connection, and to really go within ourselves for this exercise. So to assist you with this, I also highly recommend doing a short meditation in preparation for this practice. And even during this exercise, it will really at least 10x your results, because many of our thoughts, in fact, 95% of our thoughts are actually subconscious, are stored on the deeper levels of our energy field. So meditation, particularly meditating with subliminals, because these are targeted to those subconscious parts of the brain, is a super powerful way to very quickly heal, shift, and clear your energy. Now, for this exercise, I would most highly recommend a subliminal meditation that I've created myself for 7 chakra twin flame clearing. Now, the reason this subliminal is so effective for this exercise is because karmic energies, these negative blocks, can be stored in any part of our energy body, which could be thought of as being divided into the 7 energy centers or chakra centers. So this subliminal works by moving through, shifting through each of those energy centers and uprooting, releasing any blocks you might be storing in that particular energy center. And the way it does this is through subliminal affirmations, which means unconscious affirmations that your mind won't be able to clearly hear, which means they are capable of passing into the depths of your subconscious. And in addition to this, this subliminal also contains binaural beat frequencies that are really powerful for essentially retuning your energy field to its highest vibrational state of being, through which you are able to more clearly, openly, and directly, consciously connect with your twin flame. So this twin flame 7 chakra clearing subliminal comes from my website, soundandsoulful.com. On this website, I have over 100 subliminals for all areas of life. So there are subliminals for physical appearance changes, for mood shifts like confidence and happiness, for material manifestations, for love and relationships. And of course, there is an entire section of subliminals for twin flames specifically. So the link to this twin flame 7 chakra clearing is in the pinned comment and description box under this video. It's not just powerful for this specific exercise, but for a daily meditation ritual, you will really start to see and feel profound shifts within yourself and your connection simply through taking the time to meditate with this daily. So once you've prepared your mind through meditation, again, I really recommend subliminal meditation for this. What you're going to do is allow yourself to sink to the core of your being, which I know sounds very abstract, but we have to get beyond all of the confusing, chaotic interactions, conversations, connections that come up in the physical and can cause us a lot of feelings of triggering. We can get a lot of anxiety, fear triggers that come up around karmic situations, especially for twin flames. So what we need to do here is use the mirror exercise, which if you're not familiar with, there are many videos I've created in the past on the mirror exercise. But the shorthand version is, because your twin flame is your perfect energetic mirror, whenever we look at something about them or even about ourselves, again, this karmic situation could be something within ourselves as well. But whatever it is, there is an energetic reflection internally at the deeper levels of our being that is causing the manifestation of this behavior or pattern or situation between us. So begin to ask yourself, what does this thing, this pattern, this person, this cycle represent for me? That word represent is key here, because that can really be the kind of keystone word that can bring up feelings, thoughts, images that can assist you with this. I also really recommend journaling through this practice as well. So what I mean by this is, for example, if your twin flame is connecting in with some kind of a karmic relationship or person, ask yourself, when I think about this other connection or this third party, how is this making me feel? Or what is this bringing up within myself? Because very often for us, there are feelings of lack of self-confidence within ourselves, of insecurity within ourselves, that are then manifested or seem to be represented in this karmic person or relationship. So, for example, very often, this isn't always the case, but very often twin flames will, if they are in a situation where their counterpart is with a third party, they will feel as though that third party represents everything about themselves that they are not happy with or want to change. Again, this isn't the case, but very often there's a level of self-abandonment involved here where we are looking at the karmic thinking they are so much better or prettier or more attractive, or there just must be something about them that is better than me. Again, this isn't always the case. This is just one small isolated example. But in this specific case, we would need to look within ourselves and say, how am I abandoning myself through these thoughts and feelings about this karmic that my twin is involved with? And what do I need to do to feel fully loved, to feel fully supported, confident, and secure within myself? So again, that's just one small example, but in another example, let's say your twin flame is addicted to a certain behavior pattern that just seems to repeat over and over again. We may turn this back inward and say, how do I have an addiction to some kind of negative pattern? Again, it may not be literal, it might be emotional, a negative pattern that I know is sabotaging me, is self-sabotaging me or my life or my connections in some way, but that I just can't seem to let go of, that I just keep going back to or repeating. If it's a karmic situation in our own life, this exercise might look something like, for example, if we are aware that we are the ones connecting with a karmic third party or a karmic partner, and we want to get out of this relationship, but we feel ourselves drawn in over and over again, we might ask ourselves, what does this karmic relationship represent to me? And very often we'll find that that karmic could be giving us some sense of validation or some sense of support or some kind of feeling of some kind of high, almost emotionally, that we are either using to numb what we are truly feeling, or that we are using as a kind of proxy for the love and support that we aren't yet willing to fully show to our own self. So again, we have to begin to prod into this and ask these deeper level questions until we find ourselves getting to the core. So just to recap here, bring it back to the self. How am I participating somehow in this karmic cycle or pattern or energy? Then take it to the core. Step number 2, what does this thing or pattern represent for me? Why do I keep going back to this thing? What am I getting out of this emotionally that I'm not giving to myself? And then finally, step number 3, rewrite the pattern. Again, journaling is a great tool to use for this as well. Journal something along the lines of, okay, I feel this pattern coming up for me, or this cycle, and you can describe it in your own words, of course. I know why I chose this pattern in the past, and you can even describe why you went back to this pattern or situation within yourself. Again, we're taking it to the core of the self. But now I am choosing something different. I am freeing myself from this negative or limiting pattern that I've been holding on to, and freeing myself to something different. And you can describe how you are now choosing to be, to react, what you are choosing to become. Again, this may sound very simple, and it's not something that happens overnight, because if there was a step 4, it would be continue to hold the new frequency, because what this whole exercise is doing is shifting your frequency about this particular karmic cycle, pattern, or situation. But because it's become very habitual for you, It's also probably going to require you to be consistent with addressing it if it continues to come up. But what you will find over time is that you begin to hold more consciously this higher frequency around this person, this pattern, or this situation. And by simply, again, rewriting the pattern, writing down what you are going to be choosing that's different and why, what you are going to be becoming consciously around this pattern or situation. Doing this over the course of time will allow you to quite literally shift and hold your new higher frequency, clearing out these karmic patterns and heavier energies between yourself and your twin, because you're clearing them out within your own being, because you are clearing the blocks and patterns that are preventing you from fully reconnecting with your innermost self. So I really hope this podcast was helpful for you. If you enjoyed it or if anything resonated with you personally, please let me know in the comments under this video. Also, please be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. Join our conscious community of like-minded, creative beings here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram at Magnetize Yourself. Also, I will be leaving a link to the 7 chakra twin flame clearing subliminal meditation. This will be linked in the pinned comment and description box under this video. This is one of the most powerful, simple, yet extremely effective tools you can start using simply by allowing your mind and energy to clear for just 11 minutes a day. It's only 11 minutes long, and it will really help you to clear out any kinds of limiting patterns or energy blocks between yourself and your twin. But because those blocks are really just in your own unconscious mind, in your energy field, preventing you from fully reconnecting with yourself. So be sure to check that out. You can try it out free for 7 days by creating a free trial account on my website, which again is soundandsoulful.com. I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you again in the next podcast.